everybody. Hola todos. This is Paola Guthrie from Creating Purpose with Pao, and I welcome you to the Spanglish World Network and Heart Network on channel 250 and 251 on Singo TV. Please remember to download Singo TV on the respective app stores. The app is totally free. You can find Singo TV on Amazon Fire, Fire TV Stick, Roku Stick, and all smart TVs from 2016 and forward. Thank you all for joining us. I've been missing this. So thank you for being here with us. Today in the house, we have my dear friend, Cindy Gao. She is a joy catalyst. She's your victorious life strategist. She's certified coach, and her mission is to guide others to become the champions of their own story and achieve victory in every area of their life. So, welcome to the house, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. This is where I got started on this network. So thank you. What a privilege it is for me to come full circle. So thank you.
Yes, and you're so welcome. And today we're going to talk about, forgiveness because I think it's so much needed in our lives. And what do you think? What are your thoughts about forgiveness?
Wow. For me, and forgiveness is the only way to move forward. It's when you think about it, and even in theory, it isn't the easiest thing to do. And I use the word theory on purpose because we hear it that we need to forgive others and all those other things. And yet, other than, biblically or those kinds of things, we don't really have an example of a process. And is forgiveness even a process? Because I don't really think it is. I think it's a choice, but we don't really have an example of that. And, I was thinking about this when you mentioned it yesterday. I was thinking, so many people pressure people to, religion, church, whatever, and my faith and where it's anchored. And people are pressured to forgive, and they forget that, people are pressured to forgive at the speed of hurt, right? And they forget that it doesn't happen like that, that hurt and those things and those wounds, because based on wherever you were injured, what happened before that in your life, right? That's just stacking. Does that make sense? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, here we go back. And as I grow and I feel more comfortable speaking, I'm going to be biased because I think our mission in life is to love one another as our God loves us.
Yes.
And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to look at that person and be like, I love you, I forgive you. Let's just move on because we're human, right? And then we mix what's right, what's fair, and sometimes we think, well, this is not fair. So why should I be kind to this person? Why should I forgive them and move on? So it's a mix of our beliefs, is a mix of, like you were saying, our past experiences, is a mix of how we grew up. Did we watch our parents forgiving others? Or did we watch our parents and our families like, no, we're going to get them back? So it is a mix of a lot of beautiful things. But as we become adults and we choose to grow spiritually, we choose to grow, in our relationships, growth in our personal lives, then we learn because I'm just now I'm going to be 39, and I discovered this in this summer that I'm like, oh wow, our mission is truly to love one another like He loves us, and it's the toughest thing. And I connected it, Cindy, as a mission because we'll die trying.
Hey, good for you. I love that. Well, and may I just add to that? He actually didn't suggest that we love one another. He commanded us to do that. You know what I mean? It's like, and so how do you do that when you're tripping over your traumas and you're hurting and your heart's breaking and you're judging and you're blaming and you're doing all those things? All of those things hinder you from really just loving. It's interesting. Sarah Blakely, the gal from Spanx that invented Spanx, and her
Yeah.
husband, Jesse Eitzler, he's hilarious and he's phenomenal.
I
And
love
he's
him.
Oh, I love him to pieces. Well, I had the privilege of watching them do. I did a little bit of a training that I got to watch, and be a part of. That they were the speakers, and she coined a phrase every time because if you go back and look at a post she did recently, she said, "I thought I was marrying this guy in this tux and all this." She said, "And I was marrying this and this guy with this crazy," and she was talking about just some of the crazy things he does. Like this one time he came home and he's got some guy with her and he's parked in the driveway and the guy is like some Navy SEAL. "Oh yeah, he's moving in with us for 30 days. She's like, "Wait, what?" They've got kiddos. Or somebody else, he picked up a stray person and, "Oh yeah, they need a place to stay, so they're just going to park in our driveway for And so her phrase was, and it's so beautiful and it hit me so impactful, "Just love him." That's her phrase. Just love him. I share that with you because I know you're married and I know that many of our listeners are. And we also have children and grandchildren. We have coworkers, we have people, and just love them. The guy that's, waving with you with his finger as he's cutting you off on the freeway because you were slowly driving, or whatever, just love them, and to your point, very much to your
Yeah.
point, because, it's forgiveness is like you said, people want to make people right and wrong. And who made all those rules to begin with? And yes, there's the basic, the top 10, which ironically are still the top 10, right? Commandments of, don't kill, steal, et cetera, et cetera. Of course that. And then there's the little, jabs that people make that hurt you or that stick with you, or the other things that you do. And I mean, what have you found for yourself that maybe gets you out of the pain, that where you don't get stuck in that pain or sorrow or anger or trauma or whatever?
What has helped me is stepping outside. And I was talking to my mom about it yesterday. I was like, it's stepping outside the bubble
Mm,
of the whatever is going on. As it step outside and ask yourself, how can I grow?
mm,
How is this happening for me to
mhm,
love more, to have more faith, to learn to forgive, to become a better version of myself? Because I believe that every day we have the opportunity. Don't you think, Cindy?
oh,
We wake up every morning and it's an opportunity to be a better mom, a better grandma, a better uh, parent, better in our profession. How can I, better someone's life better than what I could,
yeah,
yesterday? So
yes,
I think stepping outside, and my mom and I I mean, I believe in God because I watch her. She's been my model. So we talked about that. It's like you step outside and you say, okay, God, how am I supposed to grow through this? How can I, learn to love them and
yeah.
not get a whole, not let my human side think, well, this is right and this is wrong, and they're gonna pay for it, and I'm gonna show them.
Yes.
So
Yes. Oh my gosh. So funny because I do the same, very similar thing. And I
yeah,
ask God, how can I glorify you in this moment? Show me the gift, show me the treasure. What do I, because I know that there's a gift in here for me, no matter how, whether it's a child passing, a parent, a this or that, whatever, somewhere in there is something, like you said, to grow from. For me too, it's like, how do I glorify you, God? And it's funny, I laughed. I was sharing with a friend of mine, Faye, who lives in the UK, and she's just a lovely human. In fact, you actually remind me of the Latina version of Faye. And so and she's just beautiful. And so I was sharing with her today about a situation that just happened to me yesterday that gave me all sorts of opportunity to blame and be angry and judge and say things out loud that were not resourceful. And to really, like, how you just kind of want to be like, what the heck? How did you get from here to here and do that, kind of thing, right? And I said, and guess what? And my sweet friend asked me to be on her show, and guess what she's talking about? I said,
What is
forgiveness. I said, yeah. So as I was going over the message you sent me last night, and I was like, you're so funny, Lord, that this is giving me front and center an opportunity. And so I did. I said, okay, Lord, how do I glorify you in this situation? And it was a situation where I knew that somebody they were seeing things a certain way. And it wasn't necessary. It certainly wasn't the way that I was seeing it, and so he said, well, I want you to serve them and give them this. And I'm like, and here is what I will say, I'm going to celebrate, because I do what I need to pursue peace. That's an indicator to me. Now, I don't mean peace like I'm chickening out and I'm going to go the peaceful route and not give that talk or not do whatever. I don't mean that. I mean in relationships, especially, or in something that I feel, here's the light, follow me. Here's the light, follow me. And I feel even a peace that passes all understanding, right? And so and this is where my celebration comes in, when I got that download in my spirit, I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I'll just give them this, which is something that's extremely valuable. And I knew it would be to them. And it's interesting because I felt just such a flood of peace. So one of the things that you and I had kind of dialogued text-wise was, what do you do to create forgiveness, right? To do that. And one of them is by giving and serving. And when it creates that peace, it takes the charge from the frequency of unforgiveness, so that if our thoughts are are electric, and our heart is magnetic, what we're thinking, we're bringing, right? We're magnetizing to our lives. And one of the first things to be formed in a fetus is the brain in your heart. And I know you know this from mental health, but there's actually a physical brain. People go Google it, because just Google it. And there's a physical brain in your heart. So that scripture, as a man thinketh in your heart, so is he, right? And so if that's electric, you're going to magnetize back to you love, giving, those things, not, and he did this, and he said that, and she did this, and so on and so forth. And all that bitterness and stuff won't keep coming back, because you already took that charge away by giving. Does that make sense?
Yes. Do you mean by giving would be like sending them a blessing, sending them
Even a prayer.
praying for them
Like some
with your
people,
heart?
you're never going to talk to again on purpose, and you shouldn't. I mean, that saying that people throw around all over the internet, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Well, with everybody, believe them. But with some people, a prayer is appropriate, and never, you know what I mean? Or even dialoguing with yourself and writing a letter and burning it is appropriate. It doesn't mean you have to hang out like, hey, I forgive you, come on over. Like, no,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean they
Mhm.
changed. That just means you changed the channel. You changed your focus from your pain and your blame to possibilities, opportunities, and solutions. You looked at what you wanted versus what you didn't want, or what you don't want. Does that make sense?
Yes, 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 it does. And sometimes you need that for healing, right? Sometimes you need to be outside the environment to learn to heal. And then later on, you might realize that you have so much more to give, to those around you. Uh, and yes, yes, I think of the goodness. Whenever we get hurt by someone, is like, can you see the goodness within them? Can you see what they have done? That could be another one, because this happened to one of my clients, that one of her really close, say, cousins, right? it had like a, let's say, a month or two of bitterness, and it would take it out on this person, on my client.
Mm-hmm.
And she learned to navigate, because like, I know that's not her. I know that's not her. I know she's going through tough times. I
Yep.
know she's going through this, but she would take it out on her.
Mm-hmm.
So through prayer and through seeing the goodness within, her cousin, she
Mm-hmm.
was able to overcome. She said it was tough. It was like tough times. But she's like,
Yeah.
she did not let her cousin's behavior divide the close relationship that they have always had. So, here's another one where sometimes if it's worth the embrace,
Right.
go for it. Like, let's see what this person's going through.
100%. I mean, that's where grace comes in. That's where your prayers, like for me, that's where my prayers are a little different. Like, Father, this isn't their norm. This isn't who they are. Like, I'll use you as an example, Paula. If we were at an event and you were really grumpy with me, I'd pull you aside and say, sweetheart, what's up? You know what I mean? Because you wouldn't genuinely just be grumpy with me or say something unkind or anything like that. That's not who you are. And when you know that about somebody, or let's suppose that it is like we know the story that Stephen Covey, I'm sure you've probably, if Eric's watching, I know he knows this all too well. Eric Stenlake, of course, our Stephen Covey and Franklin pro. And when he was sitting, it was in New York City, and a man, do you know this story?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
cookies.
No, 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 no. A man came on with his children, and it was early. I believe it was a Sunday morning, and the kids were like going nuts on, climbing all over and being disruptive and everything else. And even Stephen was getting irritated and frustrated with them. And he was like wanting to correct the guy, like, hey, get a hold of your kids, kind of thing. And the gentleman filled up with tears and just said, hey, we just left the hospital. I'm sorry. My wife, their mother just passed away. I mean, instant shift, right? And when we give
Mm-hmm.
people that kind of grace, we give them the grace that we would hope somebody would give us on maybe a less resourceful, happy day of ours when
Yeah.
we're, grumpy with our kids or snappy, or, your husband triggers you, or one of your girlfriends or your cousin, like like your client, and so yay for your client for having that kind of grace and, and forgiveness, just like giving her like, hey, this isn't who she really is. Because it doesn't mean that forgiveness doesn't mean that you accept their behavior, or let's say it isn't somebody that changes. Like, there's a difference, obviously between weakness and wickedness. I mean, we've all like The Sound of Freedom and all those things. And even in those situations, I've met people that have forgiven the people that, did those horrible, heinous things, because it allows them to move forward. It doesn't keep them stuck reliving and re-injuring themselves. How many times, Paula, I know for my, how many times have you had that conversation in your head, that brain candy of, I should have said this, or I'm going to say this, I mean, right? And you have this dialogue back and forth. And how do you feel after that?
Exhausted. Like
Yeah.
stuck, like you're inviting us, we need to forgive in order for us to move forward.
Yeah.
So whenever we're dealing with that, and like that dialogue in our head, those emotions, we're triggering those emotions, and we don't live the present. We stop enjoying the true joys of life. Like in my case, it would be my husband, my children, like family. Even at work, sometimes we don't perform as well because we're
Right.
dealing with situations. So yeah, and you just said it perfectly. We have to learn. And it's not we have to, it's a choice, like we have the freedom to choose. uh, in our, like, today's show, we're inviting everyone
Yeah.
to forgive, to learn how to, learn to forgive, begin to see the goodness within the situation. It
100%.
might be that that situation is helping us to stretch the heart, our heart to love more, a little bit more,
Yeah.
and be more present.
Yeah, and what does that do with your life? Like, what does that open up when you do have that forgiveness? Because here's what's really cool about that is you get this freedom of, hey, that doesn't hurt me now, or even when I recognized my growth, even in that situation that happened, or, it's interesting that when you become an observer, and you look at things as opportunities when they happen, it takes instantly and sometimes harder. Like sometimes you need like a stinking tractor to dig yourself to that instant moment. It takes some of that pain away, right? Because then your focus is like, if we come from the lens that you proposed in the beginning of loving one another, what does that scripture really say? Because what it says is that we will love God with all of our heart, might, mind, and strength. And the second commandment is like unto it, right? That we will love others as we what?
If we
Love
love
ourselves.
ourselves.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I propose to everybody, your audience today too, is what about forgiving yourself? What about cutting yourself some slack and lightening up a bit on, the fact that you're here and doing your thing on this planet. And if you're not in alignment with your assignment, grab the remote, change the channel. And some things are harder to get out of. Okay. And just do it. And because I think we hold ourselves up even from that unforgiveness of ourselves. Like, I know, even so, that because we've talked about it, of course, that my son Mana moved back home to heaven, and in a week and a half it'll be 2 years. So, and it seems so crazy to me that it's that much time's already gone, right? And I was one of the many things that I was really grateful for was about maybe 10 months prior to anything ever happening, I actually felt really impressed in my spirit. And I had just been doing a lot of work on myself, of course, and doing a lot of just a lot of time with God. And I really felt impressed with my spirit to go to 3 of my children and to ask for forgiveness for anything that I may have taught them, that I may have done, anything that wasn't, that didn't bring them joy, anything that didn't bring them, anything that hindered them, anything that hurt them, whether I even knew about it or not, or, any of that from my own, wherever I was in my growth at the time when it happened, because we're not perfect. We have children. That doesn't mean we were perfect parents, correct? And I was so grateful as I'm sitting there talking with my son, Mana, who knew less than a year later that he wouldn't be here anymore, and in order for me to have that conversation with him, I had to be willing to take extreme ownership of anything, right, in my life, and I had to be willing to forgive myself. And I remember thinking, golly, probably within 2 or 3 days of him moving back home to heaven, and even when I say that, sometimes it's such a hard reality to grasp, but I remember thinking, holy cow, I'm so glad I did that. And because I was able to share things with him. Hey, son, I saw your face when I said this way. I'm so sorry that I did that. If that caused an injury in you that prevented you from even stepping forward because you didn't feel good enough or whatever, because I was unkind in that moment, because I was stressed out or whatever, who cares why? Please forgive me, and he was crying, of course, and said, and so were my other 2 children when I met with them, my other 2 that I met with, 3 of them. And, but they were very much, and it was such a beautiful experience for me, painful. And, I wanted it to be peaceful and not argumentative. And so it was, was grateful for that, right? But I invite,
Yes.
I invite anybody who's on here, do that. We don't have time not to forgive. Like, think about it. We don't know when we're moving,
Yeah,
right? We don't know.
exactly.
What is it that you're holding on to that's hindering you from doing everything that you were purposed to do? From rocking this world off its socks. You know what I mean? What is hindering you from holding you back and from just doing the things that you were sent here to do that would bring you and our planet the most joy and your family?
And you see another one, Cindy. I'm glad you're sharing this story with us because there's also a lot of adults out there that are still holding a resentment towards their parents because mom and dad maybe didn't go to the football games, soccer games, mom and dad didn't show up the way they expected it.
Right.
So it's like what was the gift in there?
Oh
You
my
know,
God.
begin to question yourself. What was the gift in there? What did you have to learn from that
Mhm.
experience? Like,
Mhm.
let's just shift our focus on, oh, they didn't give me this, and that, or they didn't go to here, and there. But what
Right.
was, maybe that made you a better parent. Maybe that taught you
Right.
to show up in a better way for your children.
Right. And you know what? I think, and I say this because I absolutely adore my parents, and I am so grateful to have had the parents that I have. I have like these stellar parents, and they're just amazing, that grew up in really rough situations, and I never heard them talk negatively about their parents. And they grew up in rough situations. Now, what a stellar example that was for me. And they absolutely did beautiful jobs with their life and have created such a beautiful legacy through their children and their grandchildren and the lives that they led. Now, here's what's interesting. Does that mean that every choice they made me joyful? No. And you know what's funny? Because as we're talking about this and you shared that, I thought of a conversation I had with my mom, and she too, and I was already, mama with 3 children and married and all those things, when she came to me and apologized to me for something that happened in my childhood that really shaped my life in ways that um, some were not great and it took a while to heal, and others were phenomenal. I believe that entire situation in my childhood actually taught me how to forgive. And then her acknowledging that situation and said, I wish I would have been a different, basically, I'm going to paraphrase, version of myself then, because who I am now would never have allowed the consequences of those things. Okay. I never was once mad at my mom for it though. And it was such a joy for me to be able to express that. Like, you know what? You did the best you could, mom, based on everything that you grew up believing, right? Because you acknowledged that in the beginning was our beliefs are, and things only mean what they say they do, right? What we say
Yes.
that, or what we
Yeah,
believe to be true, right?
we give it the meaning. Yes.
Right.
So
And
it
who
could be
cares?
beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, choose the joy, choose, the love, the beauty in it.
Right. Well, and it depends on, where your focus goes, your energy follows, right? What are you going to focus on? Does that make you feel better focusing on the hurtful things, or that crazy loop of why me, why this, why that, da da da? Okay, well, you're not going to get an answer. You're never going to get an answer that's going to make you say, okay, that's it. Great. Let's go. That's not
Yeah.
going to be an answer, right? So
Yes.
why
And you're
even go
inviting
there?
us. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
You're inviting us to become observers so that we can see our opportunities. Because if we just see how oh, for me, like they did this to me and it wasn't fair, based on our standards, because we all have different standards in life. It wasn't fair, blah, blah, blah. So we're in that cycle of being a victim. But if we become the observer, I think that's when we grow. Then we see our opportunities. Then we can, observe that because of what they did or what they didn't do, what they did not do for us in that area, then we grew, became stronger. We took a detour in life and
Yes.
begin to observe, the beauty within.
Yes. Yes. Here's what's really cool. And it's interesting because as we're talking, I'm a few times thinking about our conversation today, this came up. And so I'm sharing this on purpose. Somebody that's watching this or somebody's absolutely needs to hear this. So I invite you to really listen to this portion because there were some not great things, the things that my mom referenced that happened to me as a young girl. And I won't go into what those are, and it doesn't even matter. Here's what does matter, this exact point. A lot of people are mad at God and they want to blame God because these bad things happened. Why didn't you stop them from happening? Why didn't? Well, we live in this world where we have our free agency, everybody has it. Well, at my age, as I was walking to a friend's house where this not great thing happened to me, I remember distinctly at the age of, I think, 10, having that download in my spirit, don't go, don't go. Now I'm 10. It's Christmas Eve, or I mean, Christmas Day. My friend wants to show me their toys, I thought, and so I'm dismissing it. I'm 10, right? So I'm not really clear on the don't go. I very distinctly remember me remembering that made it to where I never had to forgive God because I wasn't angry at him. And I had that blessing of remembering that as a young woman to where I was able to shift some things inside of me to where that didn't happen. Right. And I share that because a lot of times you might call it intuition. You and I would call it the Holy Spirit, I mean, and what did Jesus say? I mean, he said, hey, I'm going to go be with our Father, right? I'm going to go create your mansion. I'm going to hook you up. I'm going to do all those things. And I'm going to leave with you this Holy Spirit, this comforter who will lead you into all truth. And I'm paraphrasing, of course. And later he said, look, everything you've seen me do, everything, walk on water, turn water into wine, speak to the fig tree, move the mountain, do whatever, all of it, you're going to have the authority, the responsibility, the privilege, and the power to do that. I'm leaving you that comforter to empower you to do that. Now, of course, do we all walk in that? Right? I say that though, because that is what he left us. That is where he left us. And so when you think about those things, what actually hinders us from believing that, or what hinders us from walking all of that out, myself included, right? I mean, us included. And I say that just because your relationship with God or your relationship with, whatever you're going to label it, but I'm going to speak to what you and I know you and I are aligned in that area. What happens there? Like, because some people are so mad at God for all these things. I'm just going to invite everybody who's got those kind of really tough traumas that they keep tripping over to maybe spend some time and in prayer, meditation, whatever, and ask, show me. Like, show me where you were. Show me that frequency of forgiveness. Show me how to get there. Show me a picture of what that looks like so I have something to shoot for. Show me the channel, like on that remote. Like, give me the
Yes,
remote and show me that channel. I don't know. What do you think?
I love what you're just saying because I'm here visiting my family, and somebody was having a conversation about it was a non-religion conversation. And in my mind, I thought, when you choose to believe in God, He wants you to go all the way, not just 5 steps. No, it's like all the way, you know. And when you go all the way, then you ask Him, like, allow me to be an instrument of your peace. Allow me to be an instrument of your love. Allow me to be an instrument, of forgiveness, of light. So when you dive all the way in, you'll begin to see. But you have to choose to go all the way in. And what I mean all the way in is that this person was showing me a figure of, she didn't show me the picture, she was just talking about, somebody gifted her a picture of, to attract fortune and things like that. And in my mind, I didn't correct, and I don't know if I'm wrong or right by not correcting. I just let the conversation, her expressing her gratitude or whatever, that she was sharing about this thing. I don't even know what it looks like. But it, like, in my mind, I'm like, whenever God wants us to have a relationship, it's like he wants all in. It's like all in. And yeah, if you're mad at him, begin with prayer. It's like go all in. It's like pray to become an instrument of peace, forgiveness for others. And
Well, I agree. I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, you're married. Don't you want your husband to be all in? I mean, you have an intimate relationship with him. Don't, you with your children, you with your closest, with your mom, with your parents, with your siblings, but especially, let's just say, even with your mates. I mean, don't you want him to be all in? Like all in. He's got you. He's cheering you on. Like Blakely, just love him. I mean, don't you want him
yeah,
just to be all in? And it's one of the things that I think really helps with that, where, like, for me, where God is concerned, is I ask God, when I know I'm stuck, I say, please, God, I'm going to sit here until I have a bigger vision than my pain, my blame, my issue, whatever it is. Please, please come hang out with me till I'm in that frequency. I need a bigger vision, because when I know that I'm stuck and he did this and he said that and she did this or whatever, in my own head, it doesn't even have to leave my head, because again, my thoughts, right, are electric. My heart is magnetic. Well, do I want to keep reaffirming those things to keep coming up? And am I going to look from that lens? You remember the story of the Last Supper? And Jesus is at the table, and he knows that somebody, Judas, his loved one, is going to betray him that night. He knows it. And he still broke the bread, he blessed it, he gave thanks, and he served it to all of them, knowing that that's going to happen. Now, in some of our families and some of our things, you're going to be at events where this person is going to run their mouth and they might irritate you, or all those kinds of things. When you stay in that frequency of love and blessing, that doesn't mean that you're coddling them or you're a doormat or anything. No, 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 because you have to love yourself first, right? But when you stay in that space, then things that happen, and those are the beautiful things that happen.
her.
There you
Hello,
are.
I'm back. I don't know if I'm back or is it my internet connection?
I think it's yours, but I'm not
Hello.
sure. Did you hear me talking?
Okay. I lost you for just a second.
Oh no.
I'm sorry. I turned on my hotspot. I'm not home. I'm not at home, so I'm testing this new internet connection. So I just turned my hotspot on my phone. Hopefully that will pick it up just in case.
Great. Well, I was just
Oh,
how about just even just being in a space of love and joy, and being in that. I mean, people won't disappoint us or let it. And again, it is a practice. That's what people say. Practice this. Practice making that choice, right?
yes, become the observer like you're inviting us today. That's big. Become the observer, and see the opportunities. Like I've had a lot of aha moments being here, Cindy, after 4 years. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. It is like knowing that, and I've been proud of myself because I might have certain expectations for some people, but even if they don't meet my expectations, it's like I choose to love them and be like, oh, that's what I expected. but it doesn't mean that they have to behave the way I expect, because they're in their journey of learning, right?
And
And it's like
that, like, right?
they are in their own, journey, because if I put them on my standards, then I'm manipulating them, right? So I'm like, it's like, oh, if you did that, then I'm going to do that to you. Then it becomes a manipulative game, instead of like, okay, that's what you had to offer, thank you, thank you for
Right.
that, and see the goodness within that.
100%. 100%. And here's what's interesting too is that when we are in that position, that's where there's true freedom. Like, because that's really where you can operate from a space of, okay, I see that. Now, how do I choose to participate here? How am I going to bring, you and I come from a very different world than, like, I would say a lot of our family members or other people, because we're inundated all day with personal growth. I mean, that's the choice that we've made with our lives. And sometimes it creates new relationships. Oh, well, always creates new relationships. And you see other relationships that you've had for so long, like, wow, I don't really fit there now. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example of, let's suppose that you had relationships with cousins or girlfriends or friends where you would just sit around and gossip or talk about people all the time. And then you hang out with me and maybe Dominica or Vinu and, some of our other beautiful friends, Yayoi or something. And we, Markel, and we sit around and we talk about all these amazing things, and what's everybody doing, all these fabulous things that are happening and these blessings and these, these crazy things that we're discovering, that's like, wow, I didn't know my brain could do that, or just all these wonderful things. And what a difference it is, right? And
Yes, create versus destroy.
100%. That's exactly it. It is. Hence the reason why I know I say this a lot, but what do you have to believe to create your victorious life? To have victory, to create victory in every area of your life. What do you have to believe? And if you don't have victory in that area of your life, I would suggest that you check out your beliefs and where you might be stuck in unforgiveness somewhere.
Yes, because when we forgive, you said it, like, you're free, you're lighter.
Yeah.
Then you have even more room to create, even more room to enjoy your marriage or your professional life, wherever you are at on your journey right now.
Yeah.
You learn to let go, then you have room to truly experience the joy.
Yes. And have joy. And you see, like, when you go outside, you're not having brain candy over whatever your turmoil is and your trauma. You're actually looking at how gorgeous that sunset is, or looking at the ocean, or looking at how beautiful the trees are, or watching your children play, and you're involved there and having fun and listening to their questions and enjoying the answers, right? I mean, all those things, all the beautiful things that happen in life that we miss because we live, what do we say? If you stay in your head, you're dead. When you come from your heart, you're smart. And
Yes. So today we invite you to become an observer. What areas of your life do you need to learn to let go? To say, I choose, it's a choice. It is a choice. It's like, choose to forgive.
100%.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me. This was a privilege and
Yeah.
such a great topic. I laughed so hard last night when just because of the situation. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? I was like, okay, Lord. It's funny because I could see, hey, I'm not giving you any room to get stuck anywhere, sister. So,
Yes, practice practice that
Yeah.
forgiveness. So what advice would you give to someone who's struggling right now, like really struggling to forgive someone else?
I would say get out of yourself. So if you have, if you know of a coach you can reach out to, I mean, obviously both Paola and I are, look us up. And if you know of anybody, I would say get the help that you need. If you see that it's hindering you in your life, you feel stuck in there, don't stay there. I do not. And I would also say, prayer meditation. Now here's where I go with some of that. If you don't have a real powerful practice of prayer and meditation, you might be sitting there just regurgitating the same problem over and over again instead of the solution. You're still stuck in the pain and the blame, right?
Yeah.
I oftentimes too would say, hey, speak to your pastor or something like that. If and be and I'm not being critical, but pay attention. Do they come from a lens of forgiveness? You know what I mean? It's like pay attention again, going back to that word, observing. Observe at your resources of what's available to you. And I mean, you and I both know you can go to Google University and Google your way right out of unforgiveness and depression. I mean, but it does take discipline. Look at how often you're given opportunities to forgive, and then take those. And the other piece that's really been the most valuable to me is stay in a heart and a place of gratitude. When you come from that place of gratitude constantly, you're not looking for ways to be injured, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, seeing, sometimes even through that gift, it might be hard, the situation might be challenging, but there is a gift in there that we need to be grateful. No, you don't need to, but you can choose to be grateful for it and be like, oh, wow, this is what I am going to learn. That means, life is testing me to truly see that I am that instrument of love, to see that I am the instrument of faith, to see that I am the instrument, of uh, light. So yeah, sometimes those gifts
Yes.
come in different wrapping paper.
Yes. Yes, from the newspaper that you used because you didn't have wrapping paper, or from expensive. And it boils down to how are you going to show up? How do you want to show up? What are you going to choose for yourself? Are you going to show up in joy? And I just want to thank you again. I mean, thank you for loving me and bringing me here and having this conversation with me. It's been a huge blessing. So
you are a dear friend of mine, and I could not have another person to have this conversation with. So I love that you're here with me. Tell our beautiful audience, where can they find you?
Yes, you can find me on Facebook. You'll see my face, Cindy Gould. There's others, but you'll know me. You can also find me on victorious_living_with_Cindy on Instagram, and createyourvictoriouslife.com. I would love to hear from you. That would be wonderful and be a lot of fun. So thank you so much. And thank you so much. Continue watching Paola because her show is so valuable and needed.
Thank you. And I'm going to add her website in those links on the YouTube page for anybody that cannot just Google it and and use. I didn't find her, so you can go to my YouTube channel, Paola Guthrie, and then you can click on those links to find our beautiful friend Cindy Gao that brought a lot of value today. And I just want to remember, some of the beautiful things that Cindy brought is like when we learn to forgive, then we move forward.
Yes.
Remember, choose to become an observer before you react. It's like choose to become an observer and see the opportunities. Because life is full of opportunities. Just sometimes our ego, our anger, our frustration, are like it's not fair, blinds us. But if we remove that and choose to see the opportunities, then there's a huge opportunity for all of us to grow. And whenever we grow, we just make a better world. I think we help others. We share the light, don't you think, Cindy?
Yes. Amen.
Yes. And remember that, you all have the talents, to grow. All of you have the beautiful talents that are given to us.
Yes.
To share it with our loved ones. Thank you so much to everyone that is here listening to us. You can watch the replay on my YouTube channel. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio. network, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca for all news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Blessings, blessings, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yay!
Yay.